Welcome to this special UX talk hosted by Dubstech as well as Design Buddies. Today we have with us Grace Ling, who is an experienced designer at Electronic Arts as well as the founder of Design Buddies. They're the largest design community in the world with 50,000 plus members. And over the last 3 years, Grace, who's the founder, has been organizing a lot of events out there and bringing a lot of designers from around the world closer together. Now, while she's been busy doing that, I've also noticed her always sharing a lot of tips in the community with all the job seekers out there, helping them get a better job, helping them land their first job, helping people move up in their career. And all those interactions she had made me realize that, you know what? It may be great if she could come and give a talk out here today at the Birthon. And I asked her, I said, hey, Grace, would you be interested in giving a talk where you share all those tips and tricks with job seekers to all the attendees of the Birthon? And she said, yes, she is super interested. And that's perfect. So we have Grace here today, who is here to give a talk on designing your UX career. It's filled with all those tips, all those secrets she shares in those one-on-one interactions. So do tune in and listen. And if you're new here, welcome. We are Dubstech. We're the largest tech community at the University of Washington, and we've been hosting workshops, talks, and hackathons for designers, data scientists, and software engineers and product managers since the last 7 years. And we upload all of our event recordings to YouTube, so do subscribe. And if you want to attend these events live, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at DubstechUW, and go ahead and join our Discord server so that you immediately get the event announcements and you get those special registration links. Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Design Your UX Career, where I talk about how to slay and stand out from the crowd. And these are all from my personal experiences based on what has worked for me. And I actually studied engineering in school. I never went to a boot camp. And how I got into industry was actually doing a lot of design challenges like Protothon and building my experience working with others and problem solving and adding those projects to my portfolio to get my internship at EA and then now full-time as well since 2020. And yes, I'll giving you some actual tips based on what you cannot find on Google, basically. For our our agenda for today, I'll go a bit more about my background. I really want to showcase that there's multiple paths for design. You don't have to be a traditional design student. For me, I was an engineering student, pre-med and all that. So I'll get into that next. How I got into UX and what helped me along the way. And some interview tips, so practical tips on helping you slay that interview, how to design your portfolio, resume, and all that. And then fourth point, I'll be talking about what I work on and also how to get promoted, because it doesn't stop there. So how to keep leveling up, and then giving you some resources and more life advice, and then end with a Q&A. Yeah, for me, I product/UX designer at EA, focusing on products for creators, content creators, and events on the player experience marketing side. And I founded Design Buddies. My background is in computer science and engineering, and my undergraduate degree was in bioengineering at Santa Clara University in California. Born and raised in the SF Bay area, and for fun, I love to draw, make 3D art, create lots of content on social media, and all views in my presentation represent my own and do not represent the stance of EA or Design Buddies or any of my past employers. So I want to know in the chat, what are all y'all's backgrounds? Are you a student? Are you career transitioning? Psychology, nice. Engineering, journalism, wow. Interaction design, education, banking, neuroscience. Fun fact, I want to be a neurosurgeon, so I love neuroscience as well. Tourism, I love traveling. Computer science, software engineering, math, photojournalism, catering, wow. Medicine, Japan studies, visual design, left medical school. Oh my God, I was pre-med. Wealth management, dental assistant. Wow, such a diverse background. I feel like there's so many skills that can cross over from your current background that you can apply to UX. Because in my day-to-day job, I work a lot with other people, specifically product managers, engineers, and more, and problem solve. So lots of collaboration and cross-functional skills can be carried over. So a bit more about my background. So growing up, I wanted to be an anime artist. I did not really vibe with school. Like, I didn't really like traditional education because test taking was really difficult for me. I had to really focus on in a lot just to get good grades. But I loved anime, so I wanted to become an anime artist growing up. But in high school, I got really into cross country and track, random. But my mother started paying me to go to gym with her. That's how I discovered I was fast. And I went to nationals a couple of times, and that inspired my major of bioengineering. And I studied that because I want to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. And I was pre-med just because I wanted to sound like prestigious in some way. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon or like an orthopedic surgeon. And after the first 2 years, I was like, I don't really enjoy doing this. I was interning at a lab. I was doing gene therapy. I was looking forward to going home every day. And lesson I learned there is don't life is too short to do things for your resume. If you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. But I feel like I'm really glad I had that experience because getting internship experience really helps you gain experience of whether you see yourself doing this for your career. So highly encourage internships, doing projects whenever you can, because that's helped me figure out. And halfway through college, I dropped all that pre-med and decided to pick up computer science and game design. I felt like a beginner again, but I feel like when I see a lot of students here, so when I was in school, there was a virtual reality lab just free access to students. So really take advantage of the resources you have. Join clubs, take advantage of facilities, and just create something because it's a great time of your life where you don't have a family to feed. You can just build stuff, learn stuff, and keep going at it because that helped me a lot along the way. And after that, after doing some internships in game dev, game design, I decided to pivot into UI, UX, and product design. How I specifically found UX design was through one of my internships. One summer, I was Intuitive Surgical, which is the robotic surgery company. I was a VR robotic surgery game developer intern. And through that internship, I got to make a game from ideation to actually prototyping and testing. And I realized my favorite part of that process was designing the game and interviewing users and iterating on that process. Decided to pivot over. Along the way, I feel like these days, like when I was growing up, I was taught that, oh, I only had to focus on my career. But I feel like life is so much more to that. So encourage y'all to start side hustles, side hobbies. And so in throughout my life, I create a lot of content on social media and blogging. I started an art business, used to table at anime conventions, in artist alleys, and now I'm doing design buddies. Really think about your career as like something you do, but not everything you do as well. So encourage y'all to have side hustles, side hobbies, all things around to become a balanced person. And now I'll talk about getting into UX, how I actually got my foot in the door. And I'm really curious for all of y'all in the chat, what made you want to get into UX? And I'll take some more questions at the end as well. Love problem solving? Nice. Lifestyle change? Fun? Yeah, it is really fun. Problem solving? Creative side, interfaces are made, collaborating, process, helping people tell their stories, ability to represent diverse communities, creative, design for impact, making design interactive, people impactful, creativity, UX lets me focus on product instead of writing algorithms, graphic design, accessibility, working with people, changing lives. Nice. Yeah, same with me. Like, I feel like I really liked I'm a very visual person. So I wanted to get closer to the actual uses of the product. And I love design because it's really interdisciplinary because you had to balance user goals, business goals, technical feasibility. It's really fun because I get to learn from all these different people I work with too and solve problems together. And for my journey, I started my adventure I decided I want to get into UX design October 2019. This was right after I graduated from my undergrad degree. And during this time, October 2019 to May 2020, I was focused on learning fundamentals and doing hackathons. And how I learned fundamentals was actually, it was not linear at all. I was just Googling and watching like YouTube tutorials. There's a couple that I will share towards the end as well. How I learned design thinking fundamentals, business strategy, working with engineers, all these like Medium articles, watching YouTube videos and stuff. And I also did a lot of hackathons and designathons too. So I did Protothon. I also did a lot of the Adobe Creative Jam ones. I also did a couple hackathons that were hosted by my school. So I tried to build up fundamentals and practical knowledge because for me, everyone learns differently. But for me, I have to actually do the stuff to actually learn it as well. And during that time, after I built up my experience, also shared a lot of my journey online and particularly LinkedIn and Instagram. That's how I got more freelance work. So I freelanced for this edtech startup. I also I volunteered for my friend's startup that I knew from college as well, was building a mentor-mentee matching app. And through that, I built up my portfolio and later worked at EA or Electronic Arts. And how I got in is actually I cold reached out to the director of my team. So I had such a hard time finding internships because I didn't have a traditional design background. I never went to design school. I never went to a boot camp. Everything I did was self-taught, just me not randomly, but trying my best to get experience. And so every internship I applied for rejected me. And so I had a struggling and also during COVID. So I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And that's how I got my foot in the door, essentially. But how I would reach out is I would filter by like senior managers and directors, filter by company and location, and reach out to people who might be in a position of hiring, but also really interesting to talk with. So I would just set up a coffee chat with them, getting to know their journey, making friends. And along the way, I met my director on my team, and that's how I got an internship. I also still had to interview, but I feel like cold reaching out on LinkedIn has helped me get my foot in the door. And since December in 2020, been working full time at EA as a UX designer. And yeah, along the way, I did some hackathons and designathons. So there's some projects I made along the way. Worked at a startup and did some freelance work for edtech platform and EA. Oh, I use the free version of LinkedIn. I will answer questions to the end, but I have the chat open. Oh, thanks, Yeats. I said 400 connection requests, and you have to be okay with being ghosted or being rejected. Oftentimes, it's not a reflection on you. It's just because a lot of people get so many messages they can't respond. So it's a numbers game. So just keep reaching out, and you can also like A/B test different cold reach out messages. But yeah, so for my internship at EA, I worked on the experience design team, working on mostly player and employee help projects. I have a case study of what I worked on back in 2020 on my portfolio, graceling.com. And in full time, my realm of responsibilities has expanded a lot since my internship. Right now, I'm focused on designing more on the services side, so player experience marketing. I work a lot closer directly with product leads, engineering leads to ensure my designs align with the goals and all the constraints. And now I take in more leadership roles in product features. I'm getting a little closer to building design systems. And on the side, sometimes I help with some graphic and visual design of different organizations within EA. And so what I actually worked on, which I'll be sharing more of that soon, I work on EA Creator Network, helping content creators get paid and grow their career as an influencer or content creator, work on events, competitive gaming, design system, a game store. I also create a lot of deck templates. So as a UX designer, I happen to get into a lot of other like graphic visual design as well. So I learned a lot through my work lessons. I feel like I'll be sharing some more lessons along the way. But really, I feel like design is all about critical thinking and making sure you solve the right problems. So ask like how and why question to make sure I understand how this feature and like why this feature exists through the whole ecosystem. And really try to make decisions based on the actual data and really being open-minded to listening to perspectives that might be different than my own to make sure I'm addressing the user needs, solving the problem, hitting business goals, and making sure it fits into the technical limitations. I feel like in my process at work, instead of handing that off to engineering at the end, it really helped me to involve everyone early on since the idea stage, like involving design, product, engineering, research really early on to make sure these ideas make sense, they're feasible, they meet business goals, and creates more buy-in early on from stakeholders. Also, what y'all can start doing right now is to document your learnings, your accomplishments, and create a hype doc. So create a doc of everything you've accomplished because this helps you raise up your value proposition, which you can use to negotiate. Don't forget to negotiate, everyone. Like even your internships, just try it, shoot your shot. Because that will help you give you hard evidence of like how you create more value and use that to negotiate during when you land your offer. Every time you get promoted, it's negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. And also like communication. And also when you're working at the company, you can also network within the company too. I know these days there's so many layoffs I see going on. And sometimes it helps to have a connection to another part of the company. So in case your team is impacted by it, you also have that connection too. And if you're ever interested in switching teams, it's also really helpful to do that. So networking never really stops. Like you get in the door, continue networking. And I feel like the term networking can be a little intimidating. I like to reframe it as making friends, and friends try to help each other. So making friends within the company. So all your life, continue to make friends. So now give some UX interviewing tips and how to work backwards and design your UX interview strategy. So I'm also curious, what kind of industries are you currently working in? And really quick, may I ask the question, were you getting feedback in your portfolio? Yes, I actually created design buddies and I was posting my portfolio in there. So people there helped me give feedback. And what industries do y'all want to work on? Financial, video games, sustainability, service desk, front end, fashion, games, e-commerce, ed tech, gaming, lots of games, wellness, government, gaming or mental health, SaaS, sports, telecommunication, fashion, beauty, edtech, Web3, entertainment, music, space. Nice. Very cool. Gaming, media, travel, nonprofits, AR, VR, property, mental health, AI. Nice. Y'all should make a project for the AI track to put in our portfolio. Food tech. Wow, nice. Education, nonprofits, skiing holidays, aerospace. Nice. Thanks, y'all, for sharing. I feel like making sure, like thinking ahead of what kind of industry you want to work in and position yourself as a designer for those industries is one way you can stand out. Because oftentimes I feel like when I talk to a lot of hiring managers, a lot of the portfolios they get are pretty cookie cutter. And I feel like one way to stand out is to put in your bio, like what industries are you working in and why are you interested, and having relevant projects to do that. Because in my personal experience interviewing at EA, we have selected candidates, for me, I felt was more strong because they had that gaming experience, in my experience. So having that helps you stand out. 'Cause I feel like a lot of times when I was like a junior designer, I felt, oh, I had to stand out. And I feel like that's something that I see a lot of people in Design Buddy struggle with too. And so I feel like for me, working backwards, like looking at job descriptions as like your PRD. And so when I was first getting into design, I looked at job descriptions, I found them on LinkedIn and Glassdoor and try to see what skills that they have. And I tried to highlight them in my application and gain those skills. So I looked at that as like a quest or like a low requirements document for myself to design my own career path. And so some examples of what you might see on these job descriptions are lots of cross-functional skills, especially if you get mid-level to senior plus. And I feel like working with lots of people, including this hackathon, building a team is a great way to get this experience early on without a job. So in my day-to-day life, I work very closely with product managers, so it helps to understand business side, how we use business metrics to measure success, working with engineers, specifically more front-end architects, QA, researchers, UX researchers, business partners, and leaderships and more. And also solving problems. I feel like UX design is often feels like a puzzle. You're trying to balance your user need, what problem you're solving, how does this make money? How does it either save the company time or generate more revenue, and having these metrics to prove that your product actually meets those goals? Because in the day, it's all good to improve users' lives, but people need to get paid. People have mouths to feed, people have rent to pay. So having business metrics helps. And technical constraints, what have you considered and how have you worked with engineering to create that handout process? And also helps contribute to product strategy too. Another way that I've seen designers stand out is to be more knowledgeable in the business side. And how I got this experience was looking at why products are popular these days and like kind of analyzing why. So I look on Product Hunt, try to analyze what trends, what psychology principles align, make it make sense for that product to be popular. Also working on the research, knowing some knowing some research methodologies and how you would use the results from that to inform your design solutions. being able to articulate your design solutions is super important as well. And also, day-to-day, creating workshops to align stakeholders, creating user flows, wireframes, mockups on Figma, prototypes, documentation. And for me, I wouldn't, if I were to tell myself looking back as a junior designer, I wouldn't stress so hard about mastering Figma. In fact, I would focus more on how are my critical thinking skills, and I'll get better at Figma over time as I do more for that too. So I would say probably like less than 30% of my time is spent on Figma. And the rest of the time is like Google Slides, meetings, documentation, handoffs, and more. So there's a lot more to UX design than just making something look pretty on Figma too. There's a lot in discovering what you need to make it look nice and make it look usable on Figma. And improving your portfolio. So this is what I learned after getting hundreds and hundreds of people giving me feedback on my portfolio when I was first starting out. I feel like when I think of portfolio, I used to be like so intimidated because it seemed like a lot. And I was like, I don't know, I had no idea where to start. But I feel like to break it down, your MVP, minimum viable portfolio, should include at least your landing page, at least 1 or 2 case studies, and about section. So just 3 page or 4 pages. And if you all have other hobbies outside of design, this is like my opinion, because I know sometimes hiring managers, they have different opinions. But for me, I really like to draw, and I had a separate playground section. And this was good because it worked for me because it helped showcase more parts of myself and it helped me stand out as a designer for highlighting my other hobbies. But in my experience, talking to other hiring managers, they prefer to have portfolio just focus on design. Either way works. I continue to put it because I like to showcase my artwork too. You can also, in your about page, talk a bit more about how you got into design, why you're passionate about design, and what do you hope to do in design. You can also write articles and feature anything you want on your portfolio, as long as it's somewhat relevant to design. And then I feel like the really meat of your portfolio, the focus on your portfolio, should be your case study. So having at least 1 or 2 really strong ones, quality over quantity. And really, because this is what a lot of hiring managers and recruiters look at to really understand how you think, how you operate as a designer to make decisions whether or not they want to take you further to an interview. And for case studies, I would break it down into different parts and having a strong case for it. So starting with like, why are you doing this? What problem are you solving? And who are the users? And what did you do to validate that this was the problem? And your role and how you worked with your team to solve that problem. In the middle is like what kind of explorations, what kind of solutions have you explored? Why did you go with the final one? So showing that double diamond process, your convergent and divergent thinking here is good as well. And how you test it, how you validate it, how did you know this iteration was the one you went for? And then the end, what impact did that had? Like, how did you measure success? What kind of constraints did you have to deal with? What did you learn along the way? Along the way, after having your portfolio up, I would encourage y'all to ask for feedback for your peers, others, and design buddies. You also have channels where you can ask for feedback on that as well. And I have my portfolio live, graceling.com. Feel free to check it out. I'm actually updating it right now. So my case study is from 2020, but you'll see soon about what I've worked on since there. And in your resume, I feel like your resume is also important to focus on. So when you're resume writing, it's important to be really specific and really specific on the impact you made. For example, you designed a landing page to improve conversion rate by 78%. So use numbers whenever you can as well. And also look at the job description, make sure you match the same skills. For example, the job description says like visual design or prototyping or user research, make sure you include that if you have it as well on your resume. But also ask for feedback. It's always good to get more eyes from people to make sure that it makes sense. And we also have those channels and design buddies too. And cover letters, I feel are kind of spicy topic. In my opinion, feel like cover letters are a fan fiction of like you working at the company, but I still see a lot of jobs requiring them. Honestly, right now, I would use ChatGPT to write my cover letter. You can even use ChatGPT to help write your resume. Just make sure all the information is correct. So using AI tools will help you in your job search too. So for cover letters, honestly, it's look at templates, ask ChatGPT, and just plug your experience into it and submit it. I wouldn't stress too hard. If I were to prioritize, I would prioritize my portfolio because that's the one they look at. You still have to submit a cover letter sometimes. Life, in my opinion, is a work smart, not hard. So use ChatGPT. If I were you, I would use ChatGPT to write my cover letter. Yes. Yeah, honestly, if you really want that job, also ask for feedback in your cover letter. Ask ChatGPT. Like you can input the job description, input your resume, and ask ChatGPT to write that for you. Yeah. And also, yeah, ChatGPT to write your resume. And how I actually use ChatGPT was I would write what I currently have on my resume, and I write and I prompt it to say, make it sound more impactful for this job description. So yeah, work smart, not hard. Use what you got. Yeah, it is really great for proofreading. And yes, you can use ChatGPT to write your LinkedIn description. Use ChatGPT to write your bio. Use ChatGPT whenever you can. So yeah, I love it. Yeah, and then on top of when you're in the job process, you have to know what you want. You have to have your portfolio, your resume, and maybe a cover letter. But if you don't know anyone, then you never get anywhere. So networking, it's also about who knows you, not just who you know, but who knows you. And networking, I used to feel like it's quite intimidating. I used to feel like, oh my God, when I was a student, I was like, who's going to talk to me? Because I'm just a small potato. But what helped me get over that fear of networking was reframing it as making friends help each other, friends find things in common, how we can help each other. And for me, coming from the other side, 3 years in the industry now, I feel like I like making friends. I like meeting others as well. It's not all about can you get me a job, but sometimes you connect with someone, something might not be something now, but maybe in the future. So it always helps to have more connections. So add each other on LinkedIn, connect with each other, connect with me, connect with everyone, connect with the organizers, and just vibe. And yeah, and then how I cold reached out to people for a job was I would A/B test different cold reach out messages. And looking back, this was in 2020, but now we have these AI tools. So you can use ChatGPT to write you a cold reach out message request on LinkedIn. You can prompt it, see what you want to talk about, what they have in your portfolio and stuff, and use ChatGPT. I'm not sponsored by ChatGPT, but in any ways, but I just love it. So I'm sharing examples. And also, I would participate in more communities to meet others. I feel like these are ways that you can organically meet others. If you don't want to cold reach out, you can still meet others through participating in communities. There's online ones like Design Buddies, also ones in your local communities where you can find on meetup.com, Facebook groups, or any of your local connections, or might know some as well. Also attending events, virtual, in person, connecting with others through that. So what y'all are doing right now. And also for me, I personally don't really reach out to people anymore. And how I got to this point was I create a lot of content on social media. So I just share my journey, my learnings, what I'm making, and have people reach out to me. So that's what helped me not help me network and just share content on social media. But these are ways that you can just meet people who might be able to help you in your career. You might be able to help them in their career down the line, just making friends, vibing with each other. And apply to jobs. I feel like jobs, I feel like when you get rejected, it's not because you're not qualified, it's because they're looking for a specific designer. And also, when you get rejected, it's also good. It's also really helpful to ask for feedback. So ask them is there anything I can do next time? Or why did I get rejected? And use that to as data to iterate on your own design journey and your own design approach. Sometimes they can't give it to you, but when you asked your interviewer and hiring manager why, it shows that you're self-aware and open to improve, which is another way where you can stand out because I feel like self-awareness is such an important skill I look for when I'm interviewing people and it helped me a lot in my life as well. And finding jobs on job boards, I feel like Also, like with networking, a lot of jobs out there are not even advertised. Like for me, that's how I got my internship at EA. I just reached out to director. But there's also lots of job opportunities where you can find stuff like on Design Buddies. We have a paid opportunities job board, a web one as well, a talent collective, which is free to apply to. We share information with hiring managers. And also, when you get your foot in the door, when you apply for a job and you get contacted by a recruiter is your friend. Oftentimes, they get commissioned if you get hired. And so they're here to help. They're not scary. They're really friendly. And so ask recruiters, like, what skills are they prioritizing? Where did they see the company in 10 years? What makes them excited about this company and what they're doing? And also, what are they doing to in this macroeconomic circumstances to see like how I feel like a lot of tech companies are doing layoffs and stuff. So asking these like questions to try to get a vibe or just check in to see how they're doing on that because I don't want y'all to get laid off. And also when you're job hunting, I always like to get feedback on my job hunting process. So I would hit up some friends, ask people to do mock interviews at the same time. Like I try to help them out too but also get feedback from people like through Design Buddies, Dubstag, yeah, and finding mentors on your post to job hunting. And interviewing, like when I first started in design, I was like, oh my God, these are like so many different types of interviews. But to break it down, the most common ones I've seen and experienced are the behavior interview, the app critique, the portfolio review, and design challenge. I would say the most common ones I've seen are behavioral and portfolio review. And behavioral is like when you get asked, tell me about yourself and tell me about time where you had a conflict and how did you resolve about it. And they're just trying to look for how are you as a coworker. And how I would also prepare for interviews now is I would ask ChatGPT, like, hey, be my interviewer. I'm interviewing for this job with this job description. Tell me some behavioral interview skills I should prepare for. So yeah, ask ChatGPT as well. But also with behavioral interviews, you often should you it's like a little template, a little format that will help you as well. It's called the STAR interview template. So just STAR. We can Google it, but essentially it stands for situation, task, action, and result. So what was the situation? How did you solve it? And what was the impact of it too? Also, and when you're online Zoom interviewing, what I did was I created a doc of all these possible questions and I put it on top of my Zoom interview. So it looked like I'm still looking at the interviewer, but I had all the answers. But I can't just read, I like bullet pointed it because I don't want to sound robotic reading it. But if you're online interviewing, overlay like interview answers to that. Yeah. So do that because no one knows and work smart, not hard. And also how you can stand out is if you, for example, if I'm interviewing for a games company, I'd like to look at the website to see what their core values are and what are some trends in gaming that I'm excited about and why, and try to relate them back to my own experience. And don't be cheesy, don't like list all of them, but just try to be authentic and organically loop them inside like your experience too. And then next is your portfolio review. So this is where you submit your portfolio and you want to create a presentation deck. So you don't want to share your screen and just scroll through your portfolio deck. You want to create a deck and like a presentation deck. And I can share some examples if you want as well, like what I've used. And this is where it's more like conversation. It's usually done during like a group interview or one-on-one interview where they would ask like, why was this a problem? How did you know this was the right solution? What have you considered? How did you measure success? How did you know those were the right metrics to use? You gotta understand how you think as a designer and how you present and how you collaborate with others. And the app critique, usually I think for app critique interviews, usually they choose an app or you choose an app and you walk through and describe like what visual design, business goals, and interaction design this app is using to solve the problem and just analyze the app. And then for design challenges or whiteboarding challenges, I feel like this is also like controversial in the interview round now, but sometimes companies still do that. They can either take place in the form of a 1 hour, 45-minute whiteboarding interview where they give you a prompt and you solve it right away. Or they can give you like a design challenge to give you a week, try to design something to solve that problem. I would practice and try to like practice whiteboarding as well, solving problems on the spot and asking for live feedback along the way. Just make sure that the interviewer's on on point. And because like in my experience, given these whiteboard interviews, like how I felt like someone like was not strong was they put too many features in one interview in one whiteboarding challenge. So really be intentional. Have 45 minutes, focus on MVP is how you can stand out for that. And also if you get like a design challenge from a company, you can often find, especially for a large company, you can often find people posting that on like Medium or on their blog. So just search them. Don't copy it, but take that as inspiration that you can apply to your own portfolio too. But don't copy it though. But also, for all these interviews, ask ChatGPT to pretend they're your interviewer and do a mock interview with them. And so, yes, always get it. If you ever get accepted and rejected, always ask why. Even if you get accepted, like for example, I like to ask, so what made me stand out as a candidate? And how I stood out was actually because I like to draw and create content. So showcasing like parts of me that are not beyond my design helped me stand out and get accepted. And so really encourage y'all to stand out and be yourself. And now talk about how to stand out. I feel like in the past, I asked what field y'all are pivoting to design to. And I feel like those are great to highlight. Like all skills cross over to design. For example, if you come from software engineer, you're really great at collaborating with engineers and designing things that fit technical constraints. If you worked in retail, hospitality, you're really great with customer service, really great with working with people and collaborating on stuff. So there's always skills that cross over to design. And for me, bioengineering, it seems like not related to design at all, but I feel like solving problems, thinking in systems helped me in design too. And also, I feel like your life is so much more than your career. I think all of y'all have hobbies, unique interests as well. Don't be afraid to showcase them. You don't have to change yourself to fit into a career. And for me, at least, like I really liked playing games growing up, and I designed games in the past, so it helped me stand out at EA too. And also researching the company, looking at where their industry is headed, what news did you hear about them, and just try to tie in specific examples to show that you are a relevant fit. And also, what you can do is also gain experience without a job yet. So, doing design challenge like this, volunteering, doing freelance work, and more. And for two, I feel like how to stand out attending events like what y'all are doing right now, participating in communities, organically meeting others, keep learning, asking questions. I feel like how I stay up to date on industry trends is participating in communities, but also subscribing to like newsletters as well. And also sharing your stuff online. I feel like social media, I know it could feel intimidating to post on LinkedIn. Like I felt that way too. But I don't think too much. I feel like people are worried about themselves. If people think you're cringe, that's okay. You don't have to do anything with that information. They probably have too much time to think about that. So yeah, so just share, be yourself, put yourself out there because it helped me get a lot of experience that way and stand out. And I want it to be of value to you as well. And so on the job, so how many of y'all are currently working as a designer? I feel like I feel like these are stuff that I wish I knew when I was starting out in design too, because you have to get your foot in the door. There's a whole other world as well to keep leveling up in your career. So for me, I'm currently working on creator network and events. So products that help content creators find opportunities, get paid. So I design the creator facing side and for events and mostly scaling for esports and EA Play events too. And this is like some stuff I worked on in the past. During my internship, I worked on EA Help, used by 5 million monthly users. So that was pretty cool. I also worked on a game store, internal company game store. And in the past, I've also worked on a presentation toolkit. I also helped design the branding of the internal design community. And then I also worked on some design system stuff too. And then getting promoted. So I wish I knew this when I was starting out. So I knew how to get that bird, how to get promoted. So when you're working at a company and even an intern level, and in the internal company like intranet, you could probably find the job value matrix or learning what skills you need to get promoted and strategizing or designing your approach to that. And also, don't be afraid to tell your manager you want to get promoted because why not? There are managers here to help you. If you win, they win too. So make it really clear. So during my like weekly one-on-ones, I always like get feedback, check in how far along I am to my promotion. And also not just your manager, but the people you work with, like product managers, engineers, other designers are great people to help give you feedback, to help know where you are in that process of getting promoted. Also, if you make your goals clear, they would help give you more opportunities to get more impact and also asking for feedback. So making your goals clear, telling everyone about them and just sharing. Don't keep it to yourself, but make it clear. And also in the company, like what I like to do and helped me was I would seek high impact, high visibility projects or products. So high impact meaning it generates the most money or save the company most time. So high impact meaning making more money or saving time. And also visibility projects. So I would also help people with their decks, even though it's not my job description, but oftentimes these execs, they need help on their decks. So they reach out to me and I get to network with them. I get to know them as well. Even though it's not my job description, I still help out with that because it's also high visibility. And I feel like it helps me just help others and find and just make more friends along the way too. And just be of help. And I be strategic about it, picking and choosing. So I don't say yes to everything and burn out. I made that mistake. But seeking high impact, high visibility. You know how to say yes to everything and be strategic to the ones you say yes in. Yes, the high impact ones are the ones that generate more monies. End of the day, business. And also being able to understand, improving your strategic thinking skills, like being able to understand how this feature you're designing fits into the whole industry. How does it fit into the company and being able to understand that and use that to navigate your search for the high impact and high visibility projects and products. And also having strong relationships especially for large companies. Like when I talk to a lot of friends and reflect on my own experiences at large companies and even company in like life in general, it's all about who knows you, who you know and who knows you. So I feel, also life is more fun just living it with friends and just being of value to each other. So help others listen. Also just treating others with respect, even if they don't and just be easy to work with, but also have clear boundaries, but just treat everyone with respect. Don't assume bad intent and just try to help each other. Be open minded to listen to perspectives that might not, but that might be different than yours. And just coming from a place of curiosity and building relationships that way. And how to keep improving as a designer, like on the job, there's a whole world out there for you to keep improving on. I feel like for me, since I'm at like mid level and senior, like that kind of place in design, what I'm trying to do right now is learning beyond design because that helps me specialize and get more skills that will help take me to the next level. So, depending on what your interests are, these skills could be like business, front end psychology, marketing, visual, graphic design, etc. And I feel like having these skills helps me collaborate more effectively for partners. Like for me, I'm really trying to focus on business and product strategy, having more influence with my cross-functional partners. And also improving my critical thinking skills, being able to understand how this fits in the whole ecosystem, being open-minded and everything too, and understand user research, how to take this data to inform my design decisions. And also getting feedback, always seeking feedback on how you can improve. And I feel like that helped me a lot because I don't know what I don't know. So asking for feedback helped me uncover that. And so lastly, last section, resources and advice, and I'll hop into some Q&A. I feel like I put the topics on these slides based on a lot of topics that people asked me about and what I've seen on Design Buddies. And in the past, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. This is because I felt like really behind in my career. I studied engineering and I was like, oh no, people are rejecting me. Oh no, small potato. But I feel like that was such a limiting mindset. So what helped me was just like letting go of perfectionism. I feel like perfectionism, I don't think it really exists, and I don't think you have time to chase something that doesn't exist. In life, everyone's on their own journey. It's all always fun, iterative. Keep creating, keep doing it. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you like self-reflect and keep learning from them. So just do it. Make that LinkedIn post, apply for that job, apply for that promotion, apply for that scholarship. Just do it. And just yeah, the worst thing, like, what's the worst that can happen? Exactly. And there's always so many opportunities out there. So letting go of that mindset. And then focus on learning because when I was applying to internships, I was like, oh no, I'm competing with all these design students and I don't have that. And I feel like instead of looking at other people as like competition, I feel like everyone's so different and I would focus on what can I learn from them and maybe even collaborate. So instead of trying to always like one up each other, focus on how you can learn from it, how they can learn from you and build something even bigger. And also stop comparing yourself. I feel like everyone has their own unique strengths and weaknesses. And I feel like you all have so many great things yourself that is within your control, that you can focus on too. And also try new things. I feel like I feel like just learning other things I could always do is always fun, help me become more well-rounded and balanced. And life's too short. You don't have to wait for anyone's permission. Just do it, build more skill. It's also your life. Don't not someone else's and own it. Just do it. No need to ask for permission. Just do it. Reach out to that person. Go to the networking event. Yeah, shoot your shot. I feel like also, oh, I shared this before as well. Some work lessons learned. And then lastly, I want to share some life lessons I've learned along the way. Because I feel like your career, like there's so much more to life than your career. But I feel like these life lessons have helped me in my UX career as well. Just don't ever take risks. I see if y'all are career transitioners, that is a risk that I took too. Worst case, you fail, but I don't think it's fail. I think it's learning, in my opinion. And also, like, when I actually started doing design, I had some professors or, like, authority figures in my life tell me, like, "Yo, you're, like, wasting your time in design. You should do engineering." But I feel like you know yourself the most, and it's also important to get advice from a very diverse, well-rounded balance of people. And I feel like your life's purpose is not to please everyone, so just do it. And also, living a balanced life, like, the mistake I've made in 2020, 2021 is I like grinded and hustled too hard and I just burnt out so bad. So to prevent burnout, do something that makes you happy every day. This could be something like really random, whether it's like watching anime, watching your favorite TV show, going on a run, a walk, hiking, hang out with friends, traveling. Just live a happy life. There's so much more to life than your work. Work can be a great part of your life, but it's not the only part of your life. And also, I feel like it's also really helpful to help others by if something doesn't seem right, speak up and don't let anyone silence you. Just learn to let go. I feel like life, you meet so many people and sometimes things don't work out. And in my opinion, life is too short to hold grudges. You don't have to care. And I feel like these are just some things that had held me back before that I've learned recently that helped me even more. And these are just some resources. Definitely feel free to screenshot. These are stuff that I've used when I was starting out in my design journey too. And then how I learned Figma, I honestly just found the Figma YouTube channel the most helpful. And then lastly, in Design Buddies, we have more resources. I think UX Library is also another great one too, with even more resources. So definitely check that out. And yeah, these are my socials. Feel free to connect with me and hop into some Q&A. I like to create content about like design, career, lifestyle on LinkedIn. I make TikTok videos, I make YouTube videos. I tweet about like design and tech and random stuff as well that are entertaining. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions. Oh, I see a lot of questions. So I'm gonna try my best to I'll look at the Q&A section first. And so if you have a question, please look at Q&A. So I'll be going in order of the Q&A and then I'll be looking at the chat. So Rafaela asks, how to land an internship remotely in US or Canada living in Brazil? So unfortunately, I don't know, but I've seen some remote job boards out there, like remote jobs that I've seen some. So I would look at those if I were you. Marina asked, my education and work experience is in graphic design, but I have a passion for illustration. If I choose to venture into UI UX design, does it mean I need to move away from illustration? Is there space to do both or combine them both somehow? I think there's space to do both. Like for me, I illustrate for fun as a hobby. I also do freelance illustrations and work full time as a UX designer. I don't think you need to sacrifice your interest to do another interest. And within your company, sometimes there's like opportunities where you can do more like graphic design, visual design too. So I do think there is a space to do both. And with your illustration graphic design skills, you can really make your designs really beautiful too. So really leverage that. Next question. Mary asks, were you getting feedback in your portfolio? Did you have a mentor along the way? Yes, I had a couple of mentors that I met on LinkedIn that I cold reached out to. This was before Design Buddies days. And then I asked for feedback on Design Buddies mostly. So that's how I got feedback. Another question from Chinmay asks, what is your preference, having own website or using Behance or other pages portfolio? I would recommend having your own website, but there's so many like no code builders out there like Webflow, EditorX, Squarespace. Even I've seen like AI web page generators. So like having a website, it looks more professional too, and you can customize it more than using something like Behance, Dribble, or Instagram. Mohammed asks, what does a case study should have? I went over this a bit before, but basically your problem solving, how you solved the problem, what explorations have you tried, how did you know that was the right one, how did you measure success? This is a whole talk on its own, and I'm going to try to get to as many questions as I have. What did you use to build your portfolio? I use Webflow. Also check out Zosh's Webflow workshop later today. What advice do you have for helping older UX designers get in the field? I feel like if anyone's an older UX designer, you probably have a lot of experience in other fields as well. So really tap into that and seeing what skills can cross over and using that to stand out too. Gina asks, product design doesn't seem to meet my highly creative nature. How can I direct my UX UI design career to a more creative side? Creative industries like fashion, arts, etc. Yeah, I feel like product design is very like scientific it's like art and science in my opinion because I'm working with lots of like hard technical constraints, but also injecting my own creativity into solving those problems. I feel like creativity is not just like how it looks like, but your problem solving approach. How do you deal with these constraints? How do you go about these? And so I feel like I feel like product design is still really creative, but it can be creative in like an analytical approach and a problem solving approach too. And also designing industries like fashion, arts, gaming as well. And I feel like game UX is something like I would consider too, because I'm working with the metric of success is how fun it is versus like enterprise consumer UX is like how easy it is to use. I'm just trying to see questions I haven't answered yet. Can you do a separate session on how you get started as a content creator in your journey? Yeah, there's an opportunity. I could definitely talk about that. I've been creating content since I was like a kid for fun. And I feel like how I got into creating content is because I want to improve on my presentation and writing skills and also scale myself. So that's why I created content. And ask, can you elaborate more on tips to improve product sense? Yes. So for me, I like to analyze like questioning like why products are popular. So personally, I like going on product hunt and seeing what's the top highly voted one and just try to think why. Like, is it because it's solving a big problem that a lot of people have problems with? Is their marketing on fleek? Do they reach a lot of users and stuff like that too? And reading some business books and just understand like business fundamentals, like how does this product solve problems? How does this product make money? And what is needed to build this product? And then Maha asks, who do you recommend we should cold contact? Do you think it's okay to cold contact recruiters or directors on LinkedIn? I've been sticking to younger designers who are not up on the corporate ladder. I will just reach out to everyone, anyone who's interesting. Worst they could do, they will ignore, but that's okay. Oftentimes it's not about you. It's because they're like really busy. So that's okay as well. So just reach out to everyone. Yeah, you have nothing to lose. I'm going to scroll and make sure I have all the questions as well. I see some people raise their hands, so I'm going to try to get all the text questions first, and then have some people unmute themselves too. Just making sure. If you had another question, definitely dump them. I'll also drop my links in case like y'all want to reach out to me afterwards as well and doing design buddies. Let me try to do this. Oh, see y'all drop your LinkedIn links. Just definitely connect with each other too. I'll go like up. How'd you start reaching out? Yeah, I'll find this link. I wrote this. Let me find it actually. It's on my Medium on my LinkedIn, but I searched senior manager and director on LinkedIn and I filtered by company and location. And then I added basically everyone. And I sent a personalized LinkedIn invite. And I remember saying that I'm Grace. I am a student studying computer science, working towards a career in UX product design. Would love to know how you got to where you are today. Something along the lines like that. I'll find the article later and I can share it on Discord, but that's how I reached out to people. So many questions. Are there any repeating interview questions that stuck out to you? Yeah, I feel like how to measure success is a very popular one. And I feel like have knowing that also once like this is just like a random example, but in my first product design interview, I was interviewing with Facebook and then I was doing an after-take interview and Venmo, and they asked me to redesign the logo of Venmo, and this is my first ever product design interview, and I was, like, so thrown off by that. I was, like, not prepared for that at all. So the answer I gave was, like, trash, but if I were to get a curveball question, I would ask more questions to try to understand what they're trying to get out of it. Like, for example, I would ask, "What's wrong with the current logo? What are you trying to achieve with the new logo redesign?" And try to get at what they're trying to get out of it because when I'm interviewing, I have a doc of stuff that I'm looking for and make sure I hit with all these questions. So ask more clarifying questions. See, oh yes, Adobe Portfolio is another one. If I didn't get to your question, just keep spamming it in the chat until I get it. I'm just trying to scroll up and down. So another question, how can I improve my UI skills? Any channels, courses or channels? I have good critical thinking skills, but I have a hard time making visually appealing components. Do you use design systems? Yes, I use design systems at work, but for UI skills, what helped me was I did the daily UI challenge and I looked at a lot of inspiration on Dribble just to see what visual elements they used. I can take inspiration from my own, but definitely take this with a grain of salt because if you want to be a UI designer, yeah, focus on that. But for UX design, it's not just like how things look, but how things are usable. Like usually Dribble is not real life, but for me, it's like a great source of inspiration to make things like more visually appealing. Another question, would having a background in front end development help me become a good UX UI designer? Yes. I feel like it helped me a bit as well because you work with a lot of front end engineers and specifically you have a better idea of the tech stack, what's feasible, not feasible. Okay, next question. High school student interested in gaming. What are some experiences in classes I should look for? Self-taught artist, interested. Okay, I'll answer one question at a time. So, experiences in classes, I feel like there's so many out there. I know there's like boot camps, but there's also like Coursera, Skillshare, LinkedIn Learning. So I'll just look at some classes like that and see which one stands out to you the most. Self-taught artist, any tips building my resume portfolio? No experience. I feel like when I first did my resume portfolio, I put my school projects and my volunteering experience on there because in my volunteering experience, like if I generated more impact, I could put that in as well. So volunteering, school projects too. How do I leverage my back-end development skills to UX design? I feel like for me, I don't really have that much experience in back-end engineering, but I would say if you ever collaborate with others and understand like the servers, the tech stack, being able to leverage that to guide your design to fit the technical constraints would be good. Last few slides again. Yeah, I can share them as well really quick. But this is also recorded, but just I'll share it really quick and share the screenshot this. Next question. Suggest can you suggest me best product design process? There's no yes. Like Benjamin says, it depends. In the real world, it's not linear. It depends. Like for example, sometimes we just gotta launch a feature. We don't have time to test with users, so we just do design reviews with designers to validate things. So I don't think there's the best one, but I feel like it's all really dependent on your situation. No, and like it also helps to just be adaptive and iterative along the way too in your process. So in the real world, nothing is linear. I would like to hear your take on free internship. Oh yes, like free internships meaning unpaid internships. So I have a hot take on this. So what I would tell myself is if the company is clearly generating revenue, but they're not paying your interns, it's a red flag. If a company is just getting off the ground, they don't have any funding yet, they're bootstrapped, and you feel like this is a great way to get experience in the industry and you can use this on your portfolio, they can write you a recommendation letter. I personally wouldn't mind taking it on if I cannot find anything else. So that's my take on it. It's like my last resort. And if there's something of mutual value, like I can take from it too. But also like some companies like nonprofits, like those are also experiences where you can meet others, get experience too, that too. What are some great places to search for volunteer and internship experience? I feel like Design Buddies, LinkedIn, there's also lots of job boards out there. And I think I can't think of any on top of my head, but I can share some more if I find them. How important are volunteering projects in our portfolio? I would say not there. If you have nothing else, you can add them. But I personally, I would use that to get your first job and then use your job to do that. I don't think they're that important, but if you are hoping to work in like social services, nonprofits, I feel like they're a great way to demonstrate your interest in working and helping humanity and others too. So it depends. Let's see. Your portfolio. How do you suggest tell me about yourself question during interviews? Yeah. So for me, I would just say, for me, I guess an example would be like, hi, I'm Grace. I'm very interested in this role because of this and this. And my background is in X, Y, and Z. Very excited to chat with you today. So I would start off like, what got you excited and dive into your background and like why you're excited for that. Let's see. Oh, thank you. I love hot takes. I have many hot takes. Where should I look for design boot camps or free volunteering? Seen some in Design Buddies actually. I know there's some like Springboard, General Assembly, Brain Station. There's a lot out there. So I would encourage just look at the curriculum to see which one you like the most. Free volunteering, we have a collaborations and volunteering channel in Design Buddies. I think there's also like other volunteering channels like Catch a Fire, but I'm not too familiar with that. I've just seen a lot in Design Buddies. What are your thoughts on remote working with people from other countries? That there's people on your team that are abroad? Yeah. In fact, most of the engineers I work with are in India. I feel like, yeah, I personally think is like good and it's a good and bad thing. Like what I like about it is that it's like, really like remote work. It's like a reason for me to stay remote. But I also really going to the office sometimes to meet people in real life. Yeah, I feel like there's nothing bad about it. It's just like working with others and we become more globalized as a society, we can unlock more people to work with. Oh, thank you, Candice. Thank you for creating design buddies. I'm so glad. Thank you for the seminar. Where can I access the presentation slides? Unfortunately, I won't be sharing these slides, but the recording will be shared. Things to do daily to improve the UI UX field. For me, I just work. I feel like when I was starting out in design, I looking back, I wouldn't do this, but I like lived and breathed UX. I didn't have balance at all. So I would just do my work, but also I like to ask a lot of questions, like analyzing the world around me, just questioning why things are designed the way they are and what problems are they solving, just going about that. So critical thinking skills. And also I like going to a lot of networking events and like meeting people online to learn more about other fields. What is the best plan B if I do not have a summer internship as a student? Oh man, I struggled with this when I was in school as well. I just kept networking. You still have time. It's still May. Some companies are still hiring internships, so just keep applying. And plan B, I would look for like opportunities within your school. Like I worked at like some research labs, so like within your school might have some as well. So leveraging your student connections. And how do you create your own spec side project? How do you control the scope? Where do you start? Yeah, if it's like my own side project, honestly, I'll give it design base as an example because that's like my main side project. For the scope, for at least depends on what you're trying to get out of it. I would say it depends, but for design base, just an example. I'm just here to have fun and vibe and create value. And I feel like I create the most value by helping people land jobs. So I would start there. Like, how might we in design buddies help people land jobs? And so I've been talking to a lot of like hiring managers, VC firms, a lot of people who are like recruiters and think and try to understand like what they're looking for in designers. And so looking for like strong portfolios, interview skills. So we take that, work backwards to design programs within Design Buddies. So we have design challenges, portfolio feedback channels, resources, and more to help prepare people to get a job and also help bridge that gap and help improve that network. So I guess for side projects, all like what you want to get out of it. and try to design your approach to that as well. And for me, for the scope, I don't really have a scope. I just go as big as I can, just because I can. So I have no constraints. I just kept doing it. So that's my approach to it. But it could be anything you want to make it to be. Things you should avoid. So if you have that question, please clarify. I'm not really sure what is that in context with. Shalani asks, could someone be a good UX designer without having software development or coding skills in the beginning? Yeah, I think so. Hot take, I guess. I do not think you need to be code to be a designer, but in my experience as a CS student, it helps. But I do not think you need to know it, in my opinion. In your opinion, what makes a portfolio stand out? Yeah, I feel like one that's like really easy to navigate, right to the point, and I can clearly see how the designers solve the problem, like clearly follow. So it's not too much text. Very strong personal branding also stands out as well. It looks like it's uniquely themselves, adding their own colors, their own brand to it too. And so ask where can you find more events such as hackathons, networking events? I think Dubstack hosts a bunch. So check out the Discord server and also with Design Buddies. We have a lot going on. And networking events too. We're also hosting some in person in San Francisco soon. Yeah, thoughts? Oh yeah, there's so many questions. I know I'm like a little short on time. Let's see. I am trying to see how I can answer as many questions as I can. I see some of y'all raise your hand. For the sake of time, I will be going through the text chat, so please put your questions there too. What are your thoughts on the future of UX design, especially in the AI era? Great question. I'm very excited about AI. Right now, I personally do not think AI will replace UX designers just because UX design, there's so much scope that goes into it. There's the business side, engineering side, user side. Like AI currently does not have capabilities to take all that to design designs. I feel like AI is a great tool to gain inspiration for your designs. I don't think it's going to replace, but I think it will level us up more. And I feel like as a designer, what you can do to like future proof yourself is to get familiar with AI tools like ChatGPT, Fig GPT is like a Figma plugin, and just seeing these tools and how they can improve your workflow. Thoughts on video summaries and portfolios? I personally don't have one, but I think they're cool. I think they're another way to help you stand out as well. Do you personally like simple looking portfolios or one look fancy that might not be user friendly? Simple, because hiring managers are looking at probably hundreds of portfolios and make their lives easier and they'll like you more, supposedly. Okay, so I'll wrap this up soon. I'll take probably a couple more questions. I'll wrap up in 3 minutes. How can you create a personal brand? Great question. I feel personal brand, it seems like that term seems a bit corporate buzzwordy. And I know I mentioned it, but in my opinion, like how I would approach it looking back is I would just start creating content and seeing what themes you commonly see in your content and just design it through that. I feel like personal branding, it's a like, how do you make people feel? What do people say about you that you're not when you're not in the room? And just try to design it towards that as well. I have a whole other presentation on personal branding, so this is a whole other talk. But in a nutshell, it's like who are you, how you want to be seen, and what are you designing yourself to align to that? Oh man, so many questions. Try to speed run through everything. I was searching on some website to get in contact with products. How would you recommend selecting a great mentor? Yeah, great question. So I feel like a mentor is like someone with more experience than you, maybe 3 to 10 years out, and they have done the stuff and they are also open to helping you as well. And yeah, so things like relevant experience that can give you insight on how you can be like share similarities in their journey too. Any insights you can share about how UX design, specifically in the games industry, do you find yourself implementing technical UI side alongside a technical UI designer as a partner? So for the games industry, at least for EA, we have both studios and the tech side. So I actually work on the tech side, but for game UX, I would say the main difference is the metric of success is like the how fun it is, how you're trying to like instill fun in people. And then for traditional UX design, you're trying to make the product most usable. So dealing with slightly different metrics of success. And for me, I work a lot. I do the UI and the UX, so I work with a lot of front engineers. I document my designs, hand it off to them as well, partner along with them too. So yes, I do help them out along the way. So involving them early on too. Oh man, one more minute. I am going to speed run. Problem statement, yes, interviewing users, doing some market research, user research to find that. How many case studies? It depends. I would say quality over quantity, at least one or two really strong ones. Learning for a random source, I would recommend seeing a course and seeing what topics they cover. Getting towards that. What the business books do you recommend? Yeah, I can't think of any top of my head, but I really liked things that have shaped my point of view. Have It's not like really business, but it's 4 Hour Work Week and Rich Dad Poor Dad. I would think more on that because I read a bunch more. I just can't think of it right now. How able to manage such a huge community? Yeah, I would say I find ways to scale myself and like work smart, not hard. So I always find the most efficient way to do things, and I don't take it too seriously. Not in a bad way, but I just keep moving forward. For example, one thing that I notice about myself is I'm not detail oriented, but I'm like in it to just experiment and see what happens. Like I just like love doing stuff and seeing what happens and not sweating the small stuff. That's how I'm able to manage. Yes. Yeah, I think we need to hop into our next speaker, but thanks so much everyone. It was great chatting with y'all. Feel free to connect with me, join Design Buddies for more resources. Feel free to like reach out in like Design Buddies, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah. LinkedIn, my messages are a bit of a mess, so suggest like Instagram or Twitter is where I check the most. So
LinkedIn
sorry if I
definitely
missed
featured
your
for.
LinkedIn messages. It's just a jungle, but I try. Yes. Like Instagram or Twitter.
Hey, don't just go yet. If you like this video, go ahead and put a comment down below, give us a thumbs up, and do subscribe if you want to go ahead and listen to maybe more talks, watch more workshops. And if you want to attend these talks and workshops live, then just go ahead and follow us on Instagram and then definitely join our Discord server. And if you want to support the community a little bit, and help us in organizing these events a little bit more often, go ahead and check out our merch. And link to all of these things I just mentioned is put in the video description down below. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.